Throughout this course, you've seen Illustrator and Photoshop working together, and you saw Dreamweaver and Photoshop working together. So it's only fair that I show you a little bit of Flash and Photoshop working together. You can actually import PSD files, Photoshop documents, directly into Flash movies, which is awesome stuff. And there's some really cool things that I want to show you here that actually get preserved when we bring a Photoshop file into Flash. So I'm going to show you the Photoshop file that we're going to bring into Flash here. I'm inside Photoshop right now. I want to open the file for you, and I'm going to show you a couple of things in Photoshop, and we'll see those particular items get pulled into Flash as well. So go ahead and choose File, Open, head into your Project Files folder, and look for a file. This is kind of a fun one called robotlounge.psd. Go ahead and fire that guy open. Now, a few things that I want to show you here. First of all, have a look at the Layers panel, and you'll see that there's all kinds of different individual layers that kind of make up the entire file here, right? Everything's still isolated here inside the original .psd file. The other thing that I want to point out is that we have an inked drawing layer, and he's locked down right now. So I'm going to go and unlock him just for a second here, just to show you that his blending mode is set to multiply. As a matter of fact, the way that I colored this Robot Lounge cartoon is exactly the same way that I colored our robot in an earlier exercise, right? Exactly the same process. But make a mental note that his blending mode is set to multiply. I'm going to go and relock him down. And what we'll do here before we go any further is we'll change his color mode. Right now, you can see on the Document tab that the color mode for this file is CMYK. We can let Flash do the automatic conversion to RGB. That's fine, but I don't know. I always find it best to do it here inside Photoshop. So I'm going to head to Image and then down to Mode and then down to RGB color. Go ahead and do the same here. I don't want to flatten. I want to keep all of my layers intact inside the Layers panel, and we'll see how this plays out over inside Flash. So make sure to save your file after you perform the conversion to RGB. I'm going to flip over to Flash. I already have Flash running in the background. Go ahead and launch Flash if you have it installed. I hope you do. I'm going to go and create a brand new ActionScript 3 Flash movie. You can choose File New, I suppose, if you want as well. And just make sure that you're set on ActionScript 3. And I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. There's our blank file here, if we can get this happening. Okay, now I want to mention something real quick here. When we create a brand new blank Flash movie or a brand new blank Flash file, the default document size, otherwise known as the stage size as we call it here in Flash, is 550 pixels by 400 pixels, right? And if I flip back to Photoshop for just a moment, and I go into my image size command, head up to image and then down to image size, the size of the canvas here inside Photoshop is 1050 by 500. So keep that in mind as well. Okay, I'm going to head back to Flash. And now I want to go and import my Photoshop file into Flash. So I'm going to go File, and then down to Import, and then down to Import to Stage. Or you can hit Command R or Control R if you want. Into your Project Files folder, look for Robot Lounge inside your folder there, and go ahead and pop them open. Okay, now you should get this massive dialog box showing up. What's really cool inside this dialog box is we can set all sorts of different options for all of our individual layers, as you can see. So there's all of our individual Photoshop layers. Maybe I decide for whatever reason that I don't want the word bubbles layer to come in. I don't want the signature layer to come in and so on. So all I need to do is check and uncheck the layers that I want to bring in, right? Now, further to that, what I can do is I can select my individual layers here and then set further options there over on the right-hand side. So for example, here's layer 2, or maybe I'll use my word bubbles for this example. Grab word bubbles there. And then what I can do is set the option here, import this image layer as a flattened bitmap image or a flattened raster image or a raster image, bitmap image, with editable layer styles. I can set an instance name, so it's going to create a movie clip for me. You'll see how this works. And then I can also set compression options, right? So what I want to do here is I want to select my inked drawing layer. Don't forget, that's the guy with the blending mode that's set to multiply, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this layer to come in as a bitmap image with editable layer styles. Notice that his icon now changes to the movie clip icon, whereas the other layers that we're bringing in all have the graphic clip icon there. Down at the bottom of the dialog box, we have convert layers to. This should really say convert Photoshop layers to flash layers or keyframes. So you could build an entire flash animation inside Photoshop, bring it into Flash as keyframes, and then run the animation, right? I want to make sure that all of my Photoshop layers are actually preserved as flash layers. So make sure you have that guy turned on. And I also want to turn on this great big long option here, set stage size to the same size as the Photoshop canvas. So in other words, I'm going to be changing my movie dimensions, which is pretty cool. Go ahead and click on OK. Okay, now a bunch of new things happen here. We get our Cartoon Robot Lounge imported into Flash. But let me show you some other things here. I'm just going to deselect just by clicking outside of the stage. If I look on my Properties panel on the right-hand side, there's my new stage size, the 1050 by 500. So I was able to preserve the Photoshop size inside Flash, which is awesome. Here's something else. I'm going to go into the Library panel, and there I have robotlounge.psd assets. If I twist open that folder, I have a graphic symbol for every single layer that we have inside our Photoshop file. And there's our inked drawing layer right there. He's the movie clip, right? I can double click on that and go into symbol editing mode here inside Photoshop if I want to edit this guy, right? Pretty cool. Okay, let me show you one other thing here. I'm going to go back to scene 1 right up on the navigation bar there. And I'm going to pop open my timeline. And inside the timeline, inside Flash, we have all of our Photoshop layers all preserved there. They're all in there. There's Word, Bubble, and Signature, and Ink Drawing, and so on, right? But check this out. I'm going to lock down everything just by clicking on the lock icon there at the top of the lock column. And then I'm going to unlock my inked drawing layer. And I'm going to click on my inked drawing there inside the Flash stage, or on the Flash stage there. Over to Properties. Make sure to pop open Display there if need be, and there's our blending mode being preserved as well, still set to multiply. So in other words, when you bring in Photoshop content into Flash, you can control the stage size or the canvas size. You can preserve your layers. You can convert your layers to movie clips or graphic symbols, depending on what you want to do. All of the layers are preserved here inside the timeline, as are certain blending modes. So there you go. There's a quick look anyway at working with Photoshop and Flash.